Major Arent Schuyler Depeyster. The fur trade frontier was rough, and its activities went far beyond the Great Lakes. Pelts gathered from the Great Lakes frontier were linked to the outside world. The European lust for furs put a big demand on the fur market in this region. Fort Michilimackinac at the junction of Lakes Huron and Michigan was the crossroads of the empire for nearly a century. This area needed a true and honest diplomat to keep the Indians and the fur traders at peace. The man whose conduct was most befitting such a position was a true son of the British Empire, born in New York City in 1736 of Dutch descent. In 1751, at the age of 16, he was sent to London to further his education and obtain his first commission as an ensign in the British Army. Serving in the British Army in northern New York during the 7-Year War, Depeyster was captured by the French at Oswego and taken to France as a prisoner of war. He later was released back to England in 1757, and later that same year was sent to Germany. Returning to Scotland with his regiment after the war, he met and married Rebecca Blair from Dumfries. Their marriage was a happy one, and Rebecca accompanied her husband throughout his career. The 8th Regiment left England for Quebec in 1768 and was stationed in Montreal. Depeyster was promoted to captain that year and spent the next 6 years in Canada. In 1774, Depeyster was appointed commandant of Fort Michilimackinac. Arrival and command of Fort Michilimackinac. The Depeysters arrived at the Straits of Mackinac in the wooden gun schooner Dunsmore. After dropping anchor, Depeyster and his wife Rebecca were taken to shore by rowboat. Lining the shore, along with departing Captain Valtus, were most of the fort's inhabitants. Soldiers, children chasing their dogs, mothers waving, and flintlock muskets being fired into the air to welcome the new commandant. Michilimackinac had passed to Great Britain as a result of the 7-Year War. Consequently, British traders surged westward. Traders like Henry and Askin. Merchants such as Bostwick and Solomon had stores in the fort. Askin bluntly told Depeyster that his duties as Indian superintendent would require his utmost skill, patience, and diplomacy. This community always had thousands of summer visitors, even back in the 1700s, except back then there was no law and order. When disputes arose, it would be Depeyster's job to find a solution. Much of the violence associated with the fur trade was caused by the use of liquor by both Indians and whites. Captain Valtus stayed at the fort for a while after he was released by Captain Depeyster. Valtus told Depeyster during the summer months his area would be visited by thousands of undisciplined summer visitors, and that the noise and brawling would end when the cold weather would come. Captain Depeyster and Rebecca stayed at Fort Michilimackinac 5 years. In recognition of his hard work and abilities, Depeyster was appointed major of the 8th Regiment in 1777. Even though Depeyster did his duty and put his whole heart into maintaining and keeping peace at the fort, he and Rebecca really didn't like the rough frontier way of life. He had asked different times to be transferred. Finally, in the summer of 1779, Major Depeyster received his transfer papers, which also stated that Lieutenant Governor Patrick Sinclair would be sent to replace him. Soon after Lieutenant Governor Sinclair came, both Depeyster and Sinclair visited Mackinac Island to look over the ground for building a new fort. In the same year, Depeyster was removed to Fort Detroit to succeed Governor Hamilton, who had been captured by George Rogers Clark. Depeyster remained at Detroit until 1784, afterwards going to England where he trained troops. Depeyster and his wife retired to Dumfries, Scotland, where he died in 1822. Notes: Depeyster purchased the sloop Welcome from merchant John Askin on behalf of the British Army, and in October of 1779 he departed aboard the Welcome for Detroit. In 1781, Sinclair built a new fort and moved from Fort Michilimackinac to Mackinac Island. In the summer of 1782, Captain Daniel Robertson replaced Lieutenant Governor Patrick Sinclair.